maximize your purchases. I look at it like this. There's been some years where I've spent maybe not tens of thousands of dollars, but definitely thousands of dollars on travel, to hotels, to conferences, especially when I was starting off early and it was like I wasn't getting paid like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, well, I got to fund my own way and then speak at this event or network at this event. I was spending a lot of money. If you're going to spend all that money, you might as well maximize it. My personal approach, which has helped me a lot, is to experiment with the different brands. Like we'll talk about the brands we talked about earlier in the episode. Experiment with Delta, American Airlines, and United. Take a flight with, all right, take one trip and fly with one, take another flight with another. See where their hubs are. You know, if you're close to a hub, I live in Las Vegas, so everything's kind of out here. So I kind of got the cheat code by living here. Kind of like living in New York. It's kind of that kind of vibe where a lot of them go direct. But if you're living in Phoenix, I know American Airlines has a hub there, right? If you're in Chicago, I used to live in Chicago, shout out to Northwestern, then United is the hub there, right out over here. If you're living in Atlanta, Delta is the hub there, but they also have smaller hubs. If you live by one of those hubs, then your flights are probably going to be cheaper, and et cetera, et cetera. But once you make that decision, personally, what's worked for me is to stick with it. Not to go with whoever's cheaper, but to stick with it. And I say that for a few different reasons. Number one, you're able to, as I talked about previously in the episode, you're able to build up those particular frequent flyer points or perks. And as I talked about earlier, and all the links are below if you happen to miss that part of the segment, each of the major carriers, and even some of the smaller ones, have two different sets. They have the frequent flyer points, and of course they have the business points, which you talked about earlier in the episode. You're going to start racking those up. If you take, again, back to the airlines, if you take United one time, and then you take Southwest next time, and then you take Delta this time, and it's like your points can be all over the place. And maybe over the course of several years, you'll be able to accrue enough to, get yourself a drink coupon or maybe get yourself a one-way flight. It's the economics, and it is economics, of the flights as well as the hotels are so tough nowadays that it's better that you're loyal to a certain thing. You can also learn the ins and outs of certain carriers or certain hotels. Like I like Marriott hotels a lot, but I know them inside and out. I know what I like, I know what I don't like. I know what my experience is going to be. If you're doing a red eye, and I'm on the West Coast, red eyes aren't uncommon for me to get to the East Coast or somewhere overseas. That was overseas earlier this year. If you're doing a red eye, and then you're deciding to do Hilton this time, and you're going to do La Quinta next time, new motels like that. Like you don't know. I like to have the consistency. So I would recommend, that's the strategy that's worked really well for me. I would recommend picking one and trying to stick with it. Even if you sometimes have to pay a premium, I think the consistency helps. And then you're able to rack up those things. Me working with Marriott as well as me working with Delta, there's so many free flights, so many free hotel rooms, and things I've gotten because I've been loyal to those particular things. But again, if you're not sure, I'd recommend taking maybe the rest of this year, if you're doing a lot of flights, and try the different carriers. See what you like, what you don't like. And that might be part of the vibe. Another thing, if you're going to be spending all this money, I would recommend grabbing a credit card. Now, number one has to depend on financially where you're at. Please be careful with credit cards. I've been there. It's really easy to have too much on there and go crazy. So my instance that I'm talking about is there's a flight you need to get. Your company and or you can afford it. You pay with a credit card, and then you take the money from that business account or from your account and you pay for it. That's what I'm saying. Don't just put it on. No. Again, been there before. We've all made those kind of challenges and mistakes. Most of us have, at least. Shout out to you if you have not. I certainly am not above that at all. But this is the vibe that I'm talking about right now. And it's a thing of maybe you do need to do it remotely if your business can't afford to do that flight at the time. If you're going to go this route and you rock with Delta as I do, I highly recommend the Delta Gold Card. I've had it I started flying with Delta maybe 10 years ago, around the time I sold Cutler, right? Yeah, I'm saying right, like you know what it is. But it's about 7, 8 years ago. I sold Color in 2015, so whatever it is, 9 years ago. About 9 years ago, I started rocking with Delta. I love Delta, big fan of theirs. And even ethically, I like a lot of the stuff that they're deciding to do. And shortly after, I was like, I'm rocking with Delta. I got the gold card. Number one, your bags are free for you and I want to say 3 of your companions, maybe 4. I have a family of 4. I'm like, bet, and I'm I've like, I think the first time I went to Japan, I went there with like a large backpack, and I was there for a week. I'm one of those people. The rest of my family is not. We'll put it like that. So being able to check in 2 bags apiece, that's 8. Can my fingers right? 8 bags. 8 bags for free. Done. I think there's a nominal fee. I think it's at this as of this live show, it's under $100 a year. So if you've been flying recently, if you're going to check 1 bag, I want to say it's $50. I haven't paid for a bag in so long, I can't remember what it is. But I think it's 50. For some folks, it's 60, 65. I think it might be for overseas. And it's just going up and up and up. Way back when I first started traveling, they didn't charge to check in the bag. This is where we're at right now. So number one, with this card, and like you and your party of 4 can check in 2 bags apiece for free. 8 bags if you're doing a Europe trip or going to Africa, whatever, you're good. You're good. It does have to be on the same ticket. I don't know if you have to charge it on the card. I don't think you do, but it has to be on the same ticket. In other words, the ticket needs to be that party needs to be purchased at the same time, right? So oftentimes that ends up being on the same card anyway. That's one really big perk. The second perk is that you are able to check in faster. So I want to say your main cabin 1, but they always are changing that. So even if you're a coach and you have no elite status, you're still able to get in a little bit earlier onto the plane. Number 3, you get 2 to 3 points for Delta purchases. And also, I believe you also get some extra points if you spend it at restaurants or at supermarkets. And they're changing it as we're speaking right now. So that might be changing, but that's the basic premise. You're able to get all that. Again, the annual fee is less than $100. Be sure and check it out. I think with my referral code, you might even get some bonus points. And usually, the amount of points that you get for signing up for a deal like this ends up being in the tens of thousands. The last time I checked, and I have some other flights that are coming up. Again, I was working with Navan earlier. Shout out to our sponsor. And I was checking out some flights for later on this year during the holidays. And I'm thinking, like, for Delta, a flight within the United States, contiguous United States, not Hawaii or Alaska, might end up being 24,000 points. I know for a lot of these credit card offers, they're talking 50, 60, 70, 80. Some of them are actually in the hundreds of thousands, believe it or not. I saw one offer recently for 110,000 points if you signed up. And I think you spent a certain amount on the card within the first 3 to 6 months, depending on the deal. These deals always change. But if you're interested in it, this would be the time to do so. The deals seem to be really high, so there might even be some other credit card offers I share with y'all once I figure out what's happening, because there's some good stuff out there, and I'll keep y'all posted if there's some other interesting stuff that I see out there. And of course, you'll be supporting the show because I will get feedback and support to bring your worth if you end up doing the link. So if you're gonna do it, go and support the show, see what's happening. And of course, I would let the cat out the bag. I'm a big Marriott guy at this point. Shout out to Marriott. I respect y'all. And this card works really well for several reasons. Number one, you get, I think, 3 times the amount of points for Marriott points. If you're not familiar as much with hotels as you are with airlines, they have the same type of points program. And so you add up these points, and then for 10,000 points, you're getting maybe a free night at a hotel. So it adds up really quickly. With this particular card, the Bonvoy business card, I want to say you're getting 5 points for every dollar spent for a Marriott property. And Marriott includes, believe it or not, I'm right down the street from the Strip. So that includes now MGM, Luxor, Excalibur, and I mean MGM Grand, just to be clear. There's a handful of them because they're acquiring those properties. So you're coming to Vegas, which I would welcome you. You're coming to Vegas to the Strip. you can actually use this card and then get buku points for it. And of course, we got the cheaper hotels here. Got to watch out for the resort fees though. But the the hotels here are super cheap on this trip. You can take advantage of that. Pay, $100 for a night for a hotel, but then end up getting 500. I think they have some bonus stuff, 500, maybe 1,000 points, depending on when you're able to click in there. So number one, you're able to go ahead and get a multiple on whatever you spend at the Marriott properties. Number two, they actually put in bonus nights. And so the way that hotels work, at least with Marriott, I think quite a few of them work as well. What they basically do is say, look, you're not going to elite status by spending money or by doing a certain amount of miles. That doesn't make any sense. That's the way that the airlines do it. It makes sense for the Deltas, Americans, the Uniteds, the Southwest, and so forth. But we're going to give you points based on how many nights you stay. And not your friend, but you. You stay at night. You giving, you saw my number earlier, you giving your Marriott number or, Hilton, whatever, they're all the same. And then put in that number and say, okay, Damon stayed for one night in this property, great. The amount of nights that you stay, if you hit, say, 25 nights, then your status goes up. If you hit 50 nights, your status goes up. I have fairly high status with Marriott. Again, shout out to them. That's why I talked about focusing. That's what helps with that. I'm a focus guy. I have a shirt around here. If you see the earlier episodes from, I want to say early last year, I had a shirt that said focus. It was like, my family got me that shirt because, that's a big thing of mine. That's why focus helps so much, because then you're able to rack up those nights. The key thing here with Marriott Bonvoy business card, and there's like 6 different flavors of it. You can click the link, you'll see the different ones. Again, it's a referral, so you get a big bonus for it. Of course, I get something from it too, and you be supporting the channel. If you click on there, there's like about 6 or so different ones. All different flavors. There's like the advanced ones, just like the airline cards that I talked about earlier. But for all of the cards, when you first get the card, and definitely when you renew the card, because it's an annual thing, when you renew the card, you get bonus nights. So I have one of these cards, and every time I hit the anniversary of me having the card, then they're like, hey, in my case, I want to say it's 10 or 15. They're like, hey, Damon, here's 15 bonus nights. And so I go to the TED conference, which is like a week long, or I go to ASJ, shout out to American Society of Journalists and Authors, or I go to somewhere else. I take my family on a trip somewhere, whatever. I just spend the week in a hotel, and I've already gotten another status because the bonus seats are in the card. So you hit the annual thing, and it's like, bet, Damon, here's your 15. I think it is 15 night bonus, bet. So you can get multiple cards if you want, or you can go ahead and be dedicated to one particular card. Again, all the flavors are right there. Click on it, see which card fits you the best. Most of them, I think some of them do not have annual fee, and then some of them have a higher annual fee, but because they have bigger benefits. And of course, there's other benefits to it, like they have restaurant programs, they have trip protection. Talked about that earlier. That was earlier in the episode. If you missed that part of the episode, again, all the links are below. Trip protection, safety wing will handle your health and those kind of things. The trip protection will handle, okay, I got to cancel this trip. Okay, this thing happened. I gotta go in a different direction. If you end up buying the flight, even if it's not a hotel, buying the flight or whatever with these particular cards, they will protect your trip. Right? So you got to find ways to work with it. Again, your business is going to be spending money anyway. I'd say, as I said at the top of the show, get into the business programs that different airlines and other travel providers have. Make sure that your insurance is good so that you're not going on a trip and then losing money on the trip because you end up getting sick, or one of your team members isn't able to make it, and then you have to kind of eat the loss. And lastly, here you want to go ahead and maximize what you're spending. You're going to be taking flights anyway. You're not going to sleep on the street. You're going to have a hotel, right? Like, you're going to rent a car. So whether it's Hertz or Enterprise or Alamo, whomever, they all have programs. And a lot of them also have cards. So depending on, again, where you are financially with your credit score, with your debt, where your business is and all that, if it makes sense, do it and go for it. And while you're on the road, one of my favorite episodes recently, another live episode favorite road tripping gear. I share some of it's super silly, some of it is actually very healthy. But I shared probably about 10 or so different pieces of gear that helped me with my road warrior status. It's like if y'all know me for a while, if you coach with me, if you know me personally, if you read my books, particularly earlier in my life, I spent a lot of time on the road. So trust me on this, the things that I'm recommending will help you out. Thanks again for our sponsor, Navan. We appreciate you and thank you for coming through. For Navan Travel, it's your ultimate manager of your business travel. The link is below. Y'all are getting it for free, free 99. Come through. It will be your way of being able to organize your business travel. And even as you start to get people and your business gets bigger, again, remember, Navan Travel worked with the big guys and still does. And now they're bringing those services to us. So they're used to managing organizations that have literally tens of thousands of people. If you got an organization of 3, they can hook you up. And again, it's free to you, and they get paid through the different travel organizations, the Deltas and so forth that they have a deal with. But to you, it's free. If you're watching your budget, please take advantage of it. Check it out. I already started using them earlier this year. They're worth checking out. Thanks again for allowing Bring Your Worth to come through, for sponsoring the show. Again, my name is Damon Brown. I'm an entrepreneurial coach to side hustlers, solopreneurs, other non-traditional entrepreneurs just like you. If you want to coach with me, feel free to go to damebrown.net and we can go have a session and see if we're a good fit for each other. All my rates and all that stuff is on there. I'm pretty transparent with that. In the meantime, Bring Your Worth show every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Also have a lot of bonus episodes that come out that are not on Wednesday. Just subscribe and you'll get a little notification when I got some new stuff coming. But if you just want to come to the lives, subscribe for those. You'll get a notification of that. And of course, my latest book, my 27th book, the complete Bring Your Worth collection with my last 7 Bring Your Worth books. Anyway, much love to y'all. Shout out again to the sponsor, Navan, as well as the other people who have supported this programming. And until next time, remember, you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of yourselves and others.